On this episode, we're going to show you how to replace the shaft seal on a Harrison R4 air conditioning compressor. So this is a Harrison R4 compressor used in a lot of GM vehicles in the 80s into the 90s on some of them, depending what you've got. It's basically this big cylindrical case and everything just slides right into the case. But on the front there is this shaft housing, which is held on by these 4 bolts. And of course your clutch and everything here. To get to the shaft seal, you got to pull some of this stuff off. Step 1 is always drain your air conditioning system, and this shaft seal is so old and so bad that it has completely leaked down, so we don't have to worry about that at the moment. Now, this is on a square body Suburban, so you don't have a lot of room between the nose of your compressor and the fan shroud. So the easiest way to do this is to take the fan shroud off. Now, you don't have to take the whole thing off. You can split the shroud and take the top section off. Factory, they're held together with these staples, and what I do is pull these staples out and then replace them with, just drill them out round and replace them with bolts after the fact, so that you can easily remove the top half if you need to access your fan and anything quickly. And of course the top half of the shroud is just held on with bolts on either side, and of course if your clamp here for your top radiator hose is bolted on. But it's mainly the 2 halves are joined here, and then there's bolts top and bottom, but you don't take the bottom ones out and of course work it out around the fan if you're just going to take the top portion out. So the easiest way to access the compressor here without removing it from the vehicle is to take all this out. Now, you can pull the entire compressor from the vehicle and you can undo all these things and pull it out, but if we're just doing the shaft seal, we're not going to do that. These have mainly 2 giant O-rings that go around the outside of the case, which can also leak. But in this case, we've tested it. We know they're good. We know the seals on the back are good, so we're not going to worry about that. So basically, there's really no reason to pull this compressor when we can easily just pull the nose off, replace that seal, and put it back on again. So that's what we are going to be doing today. So step 1 is bleed it. Done. Step 2, for ease of access, take this off, and then step 3, we can start taking the nose of the compressor apart. So these staples, now I should warn you, if you're working on a vehicle that's worth a lot of money and has to be factory original, don't pull these staples out because, you know, they're factory. However, this particular vehicle is a daily driver. We're not worried about that. So these are stapled in generally from the bottom. So what you've got is the clips. There's the staples come up through, so you've got the clips on top, on this side anyway. So gently you can work under the pins of the staples and work them upright. Now be careful when you do this that you don't ram your screwdriver into the radiator like I just did. I think we're okay. Fingers crossed. I don't see anything leaking out, so that's good. Of course, this is great for easy maintenance, removing these staples, so you can separate the fan shroud in parts. Just don't forget to bolt them back together again. Now, I've just pulled the staples right up through here because we're going to drill it and probably use washers after the fact, so if you don't want to push them out the bottom, you can do that. So now we have this case split here. So we can go around to the other side and do the same thing. So now you can just take out the 2 screws on the top of your fan shroud here. You still have a bolt holding your radiator hose clamp. Take that out as well. This isn't original, this is an Allen head. Put that in there. Not I. So it's that easy to remove the fan shroud. Put that aside, and now we have plenty of room in front of our compressor. Now we get to the front. So next step, loosen the 2 bolts so we can loosen the belt. We don't have to take the belt off because we're not going to be running the vehicle without the compressor at the moment. So I'm going to loosen the belt, pull the belt off so we can take the clutch and pulley arrangement off. Loosen that. There's a nut inside here that keeps this on most R4 compressors. So this is press fit, but the nut just keeps it from walking. So I'm going to loosen this nut. It shouldn't be too terribly tight. There we go. And there's the nut. Come on. Okay, so these nuts have they're flat on the back and they're rounded on the front, so don't put them on backwards. So now we can, since the belt is loose, we can pull off the clutch and pulley assembly. And for that, you need one of these kits. Basically, there's one half that threads into the nose, and then there's another half that pushes it, so you pull it out based off of the center pin. So basically, just gonna tighten this down. So what we're pulling off now is the clutch. You can see the gaps getting wider. For the outer part of the clutch. Just pressing this off now. I cannot recommend highly enough getting a good kit for this, because if you strip out your kit doing this, you know, there could be a lot of force behind these, especially if they've been on for a while. Spend the extra money, get the good kit that is high quality metal, because everything rides on these threads as you press it out. And if those threads aren't strong enough, you're just going to strip it, and then your whole kit is going to be junk. So get the expensive one. Even if you're only going to use it once, it's worth the investment, because if you break it the first time, you didn't even get to use it once. Now this has a key in it. Don't lose the key when you take it out. Make sure you don't drop it. So the next part is there's a snap ring that holds this pulley on. You can't get that off without taking the clutch out. The snap ring's right back there. Where's my snap ring pliers? Okay, snap ring's off. One thing that can help you here is take your nut, thread it back on so that your puller isn't pushing on the threads of directly on the threads of the pulley. Ease it right off. Again, I like to do all this with it on the vehicle, because I don't have a good bench vise set up for, you know, AC compressors, and you know, it keeps it in place for you while you're working. It's very handy. You can take that off, set that aside. Trying to get to these 4 bolts because that's what holds the nose on. You do have to unplug it, so just plug that there. Don't forget to plug it back in, or she won't work. So now all we have to do is take out these 4 bolts here, and the nose will come off. So some of these bolts are hidden by these brackets, so unfortunately, depending what you're doing, you might have to take these brackets off. Well, at least the front one, and they're screwed in from the back. I'm gonna back these bolts out of the bracket here. And now we can get a socket in there. So basically there's nothing holding the nose of the compressor on. See, it kind of budges it a little bit there if you work it back and forth like that. And you can just pull it off just like that. Pull that off. And we'll pack this around the nose of the compressor. And as you can see, there's a seal here. Generally, it's good to replace this. There's a bearing in here that you need to check. And the actual seal, which you look through there, you can see is there, comes out with a snap ring. This is one of the reasons you really got to pull the nose of the compressor if you're working in the vehicle, because it's hard to get the snap ring pliers in there. And since you're basically taking the compressor apart when you do this, I cannot stress enough how important it is to do this in a clean environment, not outside like I'm doing it. Once the snap ring's off, you can press out the seal, work the seal out, just like that. There's an O-ring seal in there also, so you should have a kit with one of those. There's a ring seal that goes in here. You should replace that when you pull it out. If you look at, this is the old one, and this is the new one, and you can see the thickness difference. This is the new one. They compress when you put them in. Not a good idea to reuse them. You can, but they might leak on you. Another absolute necessity is this GM seal installer for, well, it says GM seal installer. If you don't use this to put the seal in, there is a 99.9% chance you will ruin your seal. Ask me how I know. But anyway, if you don't have this, get it. A lot of kits you buy will come with them, this particular kit. When you're putting these in, you'll see there's two seals in here. This is the kit for the nose. There's two seals in here. One is green. The green one is for 134A. This one is for your R12 usually. Not always, but almost certainly the green ones are made for R134A. Before I put these in, I like to just rub a little bit of oil on here just so they don't tear. And then just seat it down there into the groove, the proper groove. That's all there is to that. And what that does is seal around the outside between this seal shell and the casing. Now if you look in here, there's actually a double seal. You can see there's this inner seal here, and there's this outer seal here. Now most likely this is what you're going to tear when you put it in if you don't have that seal protector, because this goes through the middle, and which I'll show you. And if you don't, if you just try to ram it onto the compressor nose, that outer seal is what you'll tear. Just like that. Here's one that's been installed incorrectly. And as you can see, this was a brand new seal when it was put in. It wasn't run or anything. This is brand new. And you can see how it's been chewed apart just from going over the nose of that, because the nose has to come this way through it. And while your inner seal may be okay, your outer seal is absolute toast just from installing that wrong without the seal protector. This tool fits right over the nose of the compressor, so the seal can easily slide across the gap. So this is the GM installation tool. Put some oil on here and take your seal, and what you want to do is you want to go backwards through it the first time, which sounds counterintuitive, but what you're doing is you're taking that rubber and you're just widening enough that you can get it onto the seal installation tool. Then just gently, don't be rough with it. What you want to do here is run it all the way through. Don't try to pull it out backwards. So now you probably can't see that on camera, but it's wider. So now when you go to put it on, if you try to do this without running it through backwards, you'll bend the seal inside out. So now you can get that over the lip. Put some oil on there. Oil is your friend. And then you can gently work it up over the seal installation tool. And that way you won't end up bending it backwards. I'm going to put it about there, and that'll give enough to go over the nose of the compressor, and then when we press the housing on, that'll be what we want. So then you can put it inside your housing and press your seal down against your new O-ring. It's probably going to be a little springy. As you can see, you can't see the snap ring hole just yet. Best way to do this is just take your snap ring, set it in place, and then gently press it down. Don't bend it now. Make sure you get it on the right way. Press it down until it seats and clicks into its groove like that. Make sure it's seated all the way around. Make sure your seal helps to hold it on with a little bit of oil. You don't want that slipping as you put this on. Make sure this is lined up. There you go. Pull your tool out. Alright. When you look in there, the seal should be cupped inward, so you shouldn't see the seal sticking out. If you do, you put it in backwards. Also, I shouldn't see any ripped seal or anything. You see that? You did it wrong. Alright, let's vacuum test this. Put it back together. Don't ever forget to hook your clutch up, because you have all this stuff on it. It's a little bit more difficult. We'll vacuum this down for probably 20 minutes, half an hour. Now, we're just vacuuming it to atmosphere right now because there's nothing in there. It's just all air. Not only was it bled down before, but we've had the system open to get inside the compressor. So if you pull that nose off, the whole compressor is exposed. So there's no refrigerant left in the system. What I'm doing now is just rotating it inside the seal, because if it's going to seal static but not rotational, that won't work either. So I want to make sure we rotate it over a few times to make sure it's actually going to seal in action. Actually seems to be holding fairly decently. Alright, I'll keep going with the vacuuming. Alright, let's test our seals that we put in here. No hits, that's good. Good to put this back together and charge her up. Make sure to check your pulley bearing here. Make sure it's smooth and not broken. Basically what I generally do here is tap the clutch on far enough to get the nut started, and then you can just roll it on with the nut. Don't cross thread it. Very careful. Definitely don't over tighten it. If you over tighten it, you got to use your clutch tool to back it off. There's also how you set your clutch gap, and you just want just a paper thin gap there, so that when your clutch engages, the whole thing will spin. That's about what you want there. Just, you can measure it, you can use the proper, but you hear the pulley spins freely. If I push in the clutch, I can't. So there's a little bit of noise there because the clutch got a little rusty sitting there. You know, it'll wear in. It'll be fine. Here's our belt. It's a good opportunity to change your belt. I'm not gonna do as I say, not as I do, you know. There we go. Hold your belt tension. And down. Way too tight. Sure. Now, you put your shroud back in gently. If you separated factory staples in step one, this is where you got to rejoin them, and basically just line them up and drill. Alright, I'll just tighten the upper bolts. Well, still don't know where that screw goes. No idea. That's not even doing anything. They got that installed wrong, but you know, it just comes right out of there. Yeah, it doesn't work. That's all right. It makes people feel better, you know. Tension is good. That's all in. Nothing's gonna hit our fan. All right. I guess we're ready to recharge the system and test her out. Let's pressure test her again now that we've got some run in. You can see how hard these are to leak test with the clutch assembly on, because you can't really get down in there. You can check the housing seals, but to get the actual shaft seal, pretty much just got to go down underneath and hope that you get, you know, kind of in the area. Now before we tore this apart, we were getting a hit just by going down underneath. It's telling you the shaft seal was bad. It was pretty bad, and that's why we were getting a hit. I'm getting nothing. It's at maximum sensitivity. I'm getting nothing, so that is a good sign. The static at about 60. Oh no, let's start her up again and see what we got. So temperature today, it's about 65, so we should be seeing pressures something like 35 on the low and 155 on the high maybe. Obviously there's a range there, but for R134A that's about what it is. So go fire it up and keep an eye on that. Tell me what happens. About 29 and 140. Let's give her a little bit more gas. I'm not charging by weight. I don't know where my scale is. I'm just, this was originally R12, so I'd have to do the conversion formula anyway, and I'm lazy, so, you know, we're just gonna do it by pressures. They're 145 and 30 on the low side. That's within the acceptable range. Might be a little cooler today than I think too. Might be 60 or less, so that's actually probably pretty good. We'll leave her there so we don't overcharge her. Let's make sure we're getting cool air in the cabin. Yeah. 40-degree air. That's pretty good. You know, I'd like to see 30 or something, but she hasn't been running a while either. But it's a pretty cold day, so we don't want to ice her up either. That'll do it for replacing this R4 compressor shaft seal. If you learned something, or if you like what we're doing, give us a thumbs up, like, comment, subscribe if you feel like it. Helps us, helps the channel, and we sure do appreciate it. And thanks for watching.